Hi everyone, welcome back. Thank you so much for joining me and being here today. So another fluid art creation, and I'm using the scrapes up from my table. So I did a combination of small canvases using a purple and violet colour palette, and I mixed some gold and silver in with that colour palette. And basically I left all my paint on the table for those creations. I've scooped it up. So I have a full cup of leftovers. So instead of it getting wasted, I scoop it up and use it. And what I would say is this has turned into a really nice purple colour. So, and it's not muddied or anything like that because of the colours that I've used. So this is going to be my base colour along with another colour. And then I'm going to do well, better than me explain and describe it, I'm going to show you. It's a creation that I've not done recently. It's a creation that I've done many years ago, but I want to create it with this colour palette. I'll explain more as we go, but I'm just so excited. I'm going to take you down to see the colour palette. I'll show you also the scrapes that I've taken off the table so you can see that colour itself. It's a combination of all different colours, but don't worry, I will list all the colours that I used, which would have dropped onto my table in the description box. So if you want to try and recreate that colour that I'm going to use, then you'll be able to do that. So yeah, I'm excited. Thank you so much for being here. Let's see what we can create. Okay, so here's my colour palette for this one. So before I go through the colours, this here is what I've scraped off my table. So in there's Lilac by Arteza. There's a couple of violets, light violet, dark violet by Amsterdam. There's a gold and a silver, all within that mixture there. So that's what I've scraped off my table, and I'm going to reuse that as part of the base. And then I've got a gold and silver. Both of those are Pebeo, iridescent silver, iridescent gold. So I've used these for previous creations, and I'm going to use them for this. But here's what I'm going to add to it. So 3 different greens. I've got a Winsor & Newton Galleria Acrylic. Now that's the permanent green middle, and that's the colour of that paint. And then we've got one of the newer ones that I'm using, Metallic Green by Amsterdam. Don't know if you can see that shimmer of the metallic. And then an iridescent green yellow by Pebeo. So that's the colour there. All of my paints are mixed with a pouring medium and water. 1 part paint, 1 part water, 3 parts pouring medium. So this is the colour palette. My drips from the table from a previous creation, plus a gold and a silver. So let's go. So I'm going to use 2 colours for the base. All my scrapings from the table that are here in this cup. So a mixture of ultramarine light and dark, a lilac, silver and gold. So that's what's in that cup there, because that was the scrapings off my table. And then I'm also going to add an iridescent precious gold by Pebeo, and that's going to be my base colour. So I'm going to place both of those colours on the canvas, and then I'm going to take my blow dryer and just blow those paints all together into one, just to cover the full surface area of this canvas. So the colours are down, and now time for the blow dryer. The hairdryer that I'm using is on a cool setting and the lowest blow speed, and that's what I use for all of my blowouts. If you've been watching me for a while, you'll know that I always say that when we use a colour on the base, so some paint on the base, if we can get a good consistent coverage, then that's half the battle. So I've got my paints down. I'm just using my torch to pop any air bubbles, just to pop those bubbles before we continue with the process. And then I'm going to place 4 puddles of paint on top of this surface area, and they're going to be my green colours. So I'm going to take one colour at a time, one by one, and puddle those on the canvas. As I say, I'm going to do 4 puddles. So that's my first one, second one's down, third one's just going to go here, and then the fourth one just over on the other corner. And by doing that first colour really gives me a good guide where I'm going to puddle my paints, one on top of the other. So just the last puddle, and it looks really bright and vibrant. I don't normally use a colour palette like this. I have obviously sped up the video. I don't work that fast, I promise you. But I'm now going to blow those puddles out across the canvas. So I'm going to think about the shapes I want to create and how much negative space, so how much of that purple and gold I want to leave shining through. So I'm thinking about my composition and the balance of the whole piece. The blow dryer is on a cool setting and the lowest blow speed, and I'm going to blow out each puddle one by one. I'm really happy with the composition. I'm liking those puddles, and I'm just using my torch one more time just to pop any more air bubbles. So I now want to connect those puddles, and I'm going to do that using a finger swipe. So I'm just going to start in the corner, gather some of that purple paint onto my finger, and then I'm literally just going to dip my finger in the paint, and I'm just going to swirl my finger across each of those puddles, just doing swirly lines going one puddle to the other, just connecting those 4 puddles. And I think due to the volume of paint that's on the canvas, I might need to enhance that when it's dry, but that gives me a good idea where I want that line to flow. So again, I just dip my finger into the paint and swirl it from one puddle to the other to create that line, but also to connect all 4 puddles. So let me take you in now for a close-up of the wet version. This is really different to what I've done before, and it's not a colour palette I've worked with before, I don't think. Correct me if I'm wrong, let me know if I've used this before, but to the best of my memory, I don't think I have. So I'm going to let this dry, and then of course I'm going to show you the dried version. But if you're enjoying this video, please give it a thumbs up and a like, and let me know in the comments box below what you think about this creation so far. Okay, so here's the dry version. I really like it. I love that gold, how it's kind of like underneath but also on top. I love greens. You know, greens are one of my most favourite colours, and it surprisingly goes well with that purple undertone. So I'm really pleased with this piece. It's very different for me, and I think I'm going to experiment more a little bit more anyway with this colour palette itself. Thank you so much for joining me today. I've had so much fun. I hope you have too, and I really hope I get to see you again in the next video. Have a great week ahead, everyone. Stay safe. Speak soon. Bye.